Welcome back to Arise America. Negotiations between Iran and world powers resumed in Geneva on Monday, where they are discussing how the interim deal reached in November will be implemented. And that's a 6-month deal. Iran had broken off talks on November 9th to protest U.S. blacklisting of an additional 19 companies and individuals under existing sanctions. Now, according to Iranian officials, sanctions are unwarranted because its nuclear program is for non-military uses. Joining us in the Arise studio is Iranian writer and human rights activist BANEFSHAY ZANDI. I just got to ask you, at the outset here, you, from what I understand, feel that Iran can't be trusted, but you have good reason, because your father was intricately involved in this. And tell us about that.
My father was the Nelson Mandela Václav Havel of Iran. He was one of the greatest living intellectuals, journalists, and opposition icons to this regime. The fact is that he was in and out of prison for 17 years. And in the end, in April of 2011, he was assassinated by the Revolutionary Guards while under house arrest in his house, where he was thrown out of the 6th-floor balcony of the apartment.
Joining us also on the phone right now is Alice Slater from Washington, D.C., someone who has a very different take on the talks. Alice Slater is director of the Nuclear Age Peace Foundation, and she joins us by phone. Alice, I've got to ask you that you believe, and I would assume, that this agreement is a good thing, I guess, for all people involved, especially in that Mideast region. Why so?
Well, it's a good agreement because we're not bombing another country. That's why it's a good agreement. But if you really want to have peace on Earth, then we all have to get rid of our nuclear reactors and the nuclear bombs. So what we have, why this is good, is because it's giving us a breather, because there's some movements in Iran. They're hurting from the sanctions. They want a break, and they're going to get a 6-month break. As a matter of fact, our Congress right now is trying to, almost kill the deal by making more sanctions before the thing even is over.
Right, we're talking about Chuck Schumer and Bob Menendez.
The power plant is a bomb factory.
Right, but let me just put in something here before you chime in here. The reality is that we are not going to ever live in a nuclear-free world.
That's not my reality.
Excuse me. Well, excuse me.
That's not my reality.
Well, BANEFSHAY, I've got to ask you to chime in on that one.
Well, first of all, the fact is that Ms. Slater seems to be unaware of the fact that Iran has been talked to for 35 years. The mandate of the Iranian regime, as per their own repetition, is to basically, however hokey it might sound to us in this day and age of the 21st century, is to basically create an Islamic pole. With that comes the destruction of not only other Christians, Jews, but also the Iranian regime has repeatedly said that in the interest of creating this Islamic pole and basically quickening the bringing of their Messiah, that they will, that it is the right of the Iranian regime to basically kill as many Muslims as they need to in order to make that happen. The fact is, however, that Barack Obama lost the best possible window, which was the self-determinant movement of the Iranian people in 2009, where the Iranian people rose up against that regime, and basically we were thrown under the bus.
Okay, so we're going to blame Barack Obama once again for this. Let me just, Alice, hold on. Before you chime in, I've got to say something here, and I'm going to put your feet to the fire on this. Iran has been suffering under crippling sanctions. The people of that country are suffering. Don't you think that something needs to have been done, especially with this deal, to ease attention to sanctions and also money that's not flowing into that country for the people who need it the most?
Let me explain something to you, Julian. There is a point here, and that point is that first of all, the Revolutionary Guards have basically gutted that country of every single financial amenity. The Iranian people have been suffering with or without sanctions for 35 years. Read a 1982 article in the Christian Science Monitor, and it will tell you about how the Iranian people were standing in line for bread, and that still goes on, though the fact of the matter is that the Iranian regime
All right,
is...
Alice, I know you're chomping at the bit. It's your turn. Go ahead.
I'm really sorry about what happened to your father, and I know it's horrible in Iran. I'm not making any excuses for Iran. But if we're serious about getting an end to all of this, we have to look at what the United States is doing. We are spending $180 billion on 2 new bomb factories, new nuclear weapons. We are enriching uranium. Japan is enriching uranium. Brazil is enriching.
What does that have to do with the human rights issue of the Iranian people?
I'm a lawyer. You can't have a law that's good for Japan and not for Iran.
Well, let me ask you a question, Alice.
Nobody
Alice,
wants nuclear nukes in Iran.
Hold on, guys. Hold on. Time out. I want to ask this question to both of you.
You're going to tell Iran.
Alice, please, hold on. Alice, I'm the sheriff in town here. Hold on a second. I want to pose this question to both of you. Iran says that they have a right to enrich uranium. Mm-hmm. I want to ask both of you this question. Do you think they have that right?
Look, if it wasn't the government that it is, then perhaps in a perfect world, I also don't agree with nuclear power or energy. But the fact is that this is a regime that is specifically, let's speak about the cause and not the symptoms, a human right violator.
All right, okay.
Period.
And Alice, you're going to have the last word. Go ahead.
What about Pakistan's a regime, India's a regime. People have the right. The law, it's a stupid law. Nobody should have the right to enrich uranium. Nobody should have the right to have a bomb. There's a treaty, the Non-Proliferation Treaty that we signed in 1970. We promised to give up our bombs if everybody else wouldn't get them.
Okay,
and then we made this Faustian bargain that we gave them so-called peaceful nuclear technology, which allows them to do what Iran says they want to do. They shouldn't be allowed. Nobody should be allowed. If you're going to have a law, it should be fair against everybody.
All right, and that's going to have to be the last word. Alice Slater, thank you so much. BANEFSHAY, thank you as well.
Pleasure.
We
Thank you.
appreciate it. Okay, time to take a look at other news capturing headlines around the